Alright, so today we're talking about dimensioning. So we want to take this drawing that we have in CAD, that you already did this practice for. We're going to want to take this and add in all the dimensions that we had here that I had given you. Right? So we want to be able to add all these dimensions and put in the center marks nice and even. We're going to do that today. So what I'm going to do is, I go to Annotate. Here's my dimensions. If I go here to Dimension Style, I can see I have one standard. And I go to Modify. And I've got on the template that I gave you, it has all the settings set up correctly. You're not going to have to edit very many settings. But if you want to look at what they are, come here. If you put your mouse over something, it'll give you the system variable, just like in the options dialog box. And all of the dimension system variables start with the prefix DIM. So if you see a system variable that's DIM, that's to do with dimensions. One thing to look at here is symbols and arrows. Right here, the center mark. If you have it on mark, it's only going to put the plus sign in the middle. If you set it to line, it's going to give you the whole thing. So what I usually like to do is come in here, set it to line, say OK, close. Now I can come down here, dimensions, center mark, and I can pick on my things, on my arcs, and drop in my center marks. Is that a lot easier than trying to draw the spacing and everything? What did I forget to do though?
Put it on the layout.
I forgot to put it on the center layer, right?
Yeah.
So I should have come up and put it on center before I started doing that. Can I switch it now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I can just select those all. And you'll notice they are 3 separate lines in each direction. So I select all those, layer, center. Oops. But I don't want that. Now I probably want those two to connect. So is there a command I can use to connect 2 lines that are lined up?
What, a join?
Join. So if I go to Modify, Join, and I can click those 2 lines, Enter, and it's going to join them. So there are my center marks all done. I just need to get my lines going through here. So now what I want to do, so go back to Annotate, back to Dimension Style, Modify, and say None. I want to turn them off because now when I put in diameter dimensions, radius dimensions, I don't want to put the center mark in. Because I already have it in there looking nice. So I'm going to hit Close. And so that's in here. So now I'm going to go to Home, switch my layer to Dimension, just so everything's going the correct way now. And I can either go here to my dimensions, get the flyout, and I can pull it off the list here, or I can go back to Annotate and get off the flyout there. So either place is fine. When I do a linear dimension, you can say I pull out that way, or I go that way. And where am I dimensioning right now? Can you guys see where I'm dimensioning? Am I dimensioning in the Model Space tab?
No, you're in paper space, aren't you?
No, not in the Model Space tab. But I'm not in paper space, am I? I'm in my viewport. See? I'm in my viewport. So I want to make sure that I'm in my Model Space viewport when I do this. Remember, this drawing was it was that metric drawing. That's a 55-inch. If I go out here and I dimension it, Look at that number. This is if I dimension in paper space. That's dimension in a model space in the viewport.
Oh.
Watch what happens if I try and dimension it here. Brings this up. Because the way we're using what's called annotative dimensioning, where it's tied to our viewport scale. And so, since I don't have a viewport scale here, it doesn't know what size to make it. So if I just said 1 to 1 and I put it in, look at that. That little tiny thing. You can't even read it because it hasn't scaled it up to our viewport.
You can rescale it though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you knew what your scale for your viewport was, you can rescale it,
Yep.
right?
And so that's where we wanted to make sure that we've set our viewport scale here and locked it. If you don't have this set in, it's not going to come in the right size. Just to give you an example, if I set it 1 to 1 scale and go somewhere, and I put in a dimension, see it's that size. If I change the scale to 1 to 2, watch what happens. Ready? It went away. Now if I put a new one in, does that look the same size according to our viewport in our sheet? Yeah, right?
You're locked in, right?
And if I go back to model space, I'm going to look at it, and there's those 2 dimensions. They're not the same size, because this one was put in our viewport when we were looking at it full size. And this time, this one we were zoomed twice as far in. And so it put it in, it made it half as big so it show up the same size in our layout. So that's why we want to use annotative and make sure we use our scale list so it'll create those correct things for us in our viewports. So that's why we always want to make sure, set our scale, lock it, and now we're locked in. It knows what factor to use to scale up the dimensions to make it look the right size. Because when we print this out, we want it to be 1/8 of an inch tall. And let's let it do the math and figure it out. We've already told it the math. We've already told it our ratio for the viewport. So now let it control that. This is one of those job getting things. That if you know how to dimension in your viewport using the annotative dimensioning, it'll get you jobs. And that sets you apart from all the other people that do it the old way, that isn't done anymore, that they want the people to do it the new way. So, actually, let me undo that. And now lock it in. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and start dimensioning. What was that?
I'm just saying that when you think that there'd be something that you just click on one of the lines and it'll do it for you.
Yeah, we're going to just pick some lines and let it do it. But the reason that it doesn't do it automatically is because where the dimensions are matters. And what the dimensions are going to matters. And 5 is when we talk about all of that stuff. Here, just copy what I've done. And then in 5, we'll talk about why we do different dimensions and why they go certain places and everything. When you see this 3x, that means there's three of them. We already talked about that, right? Mm-hmm. So we're just going to go ahead and edit the text to put that in. So if I put this here, go back in, make sure I'm in my viewport, so it's in model. Now I can start dimensioning. So I'm going to go to dimension, there, come over, I hit this continue button, go down to there, enter. Dimension, from there to there. Dimension, diameter, that whole come out. Now I need to edit that, right?
Yeah,
I need to put the 3x on there.
Right.
So I'm just going to type ED for edit text, enter, and click on it. Now it's highlighted. If I type now, watch what happens. Oh, good. It didn't do it.
it usually erases it and then.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you try and click on it, see now that's highlighted. Now if I type, it takes that off. If you do this by accident, all you need to do is type the less than, greater than. That'll tell AutoCAD, put back in the value that you measured.
But either one or
No, both.
both?
So I do less than. I go back into here. Less than, greater than. So then I put that greater than in, you see it put in the value again. So if you ever take it off by accident, just less than, greater than, it'll put it back in. I'm going to come back here. Remember, caps lock on and X space. There it is. Linear. Another thing I can do is if I hit enter right now, instead of picking 2 points, if I hit enter, now I can just pick the line. Now I can grab that point there, click on it, bring it up, and bring it inside. That. Just move around. If I go up, it goes up and to the left, down and to the right. Or I can put it right back in the middle. If I move it around, see the arrows kind of go to the outside. Once I get up too high, I'm in the middle. Arrows are inside. Now I'll do a radius. ED. So that view is pretty much done. So put those in. That one in. Put those in. Because remember how to get this to go away? That XY?
Forgot.
What?
And at the bottom of those buttons.
No, it's not any of those buttons. It's right there. We turn it off like that. So right here off. Or you type UCS icon. UCS ICON. UCS icon. Hit enter and say off. We're doing 2D stuff. You don't need to see that. When you're doing 3D, that's a good thing to have. With 2D, really no point. Just kind of get in the way. So here's that drawing all done. Now if I will look at this, look at that one, maybe I want the arrows to go on the outside of it. Just make it look a little cleaner. If I click on it, right click and go to properties, all those things that were over there in the dimension style dialog box is right here in the properties also, and now it's going to affect only this one dimension. So there's some miscellaneous that has my annotative style, the scale associated with that annotative scale, the lines and arrows. So for some reason I want to turn an arrow off, I could, or change it to dot, I could do that. Dimension line, I can turn a whole dimension line. So the line that the text is on, that's the dimension line. These lines here are the extension lines. So I can turn the dimension lines or the extension lines on or off. So I can say on dimension line 1 off. So the one that I clicked on first That's the one that turns off. And you'll see why on the next thing, next practice. So I'd say on. Go down here to text. Over here in text override is where I could write in my own thing also. So again, if I'm going to override and I want to keep the value, I need to put the brackets in, like less than, greater than. And then I can say DYP. And it's going to put that in. If I forgot those less than, greater than, it's only going to put the other value. If I erase that, it'll go back to whatever, what it measured. Right here, this text offset, that is this space right here. And so one way that we can force arrows to go on the outside is not allow there to be enough space for our text and the gap and the arrow. So if I make that gap like 1, there's no way it can fit 1 inch on either side and the text. So it flips the arrows outside. Okay? So if you ever, those arrows getting kind of close, just go right here to the text offset, change it to 1. It'll flip the arrows to the outside. Yep.
How do you pull this up?
Right click on it, go to properties. So just right click on the dimension, properties.
Oh,
Or
okay.
right here on the view tab,
Uh-huh.
properties.
Oh, okay.
And just when it's selected, you get those options. So this one looks good. The next one though is today's practice number 9, which is this drawing. And so you're going to go on to Moodle. Go to practice 9. Actually, it might be. And then download this drawing. I'll put it into the H drive also, so you have it there. Or you can download it here. And what I want it to do is you're going to put it into an A-size template, full size, so 1:1, and you're going to dimension it exactly like this. It needs to be like pretty close. So you can see here is where I've turned the dimension lines off. There's not enough space to have arrows in there. Here we've done a jog leader. Here we've done some tolerancing. So we'll talk all about that stuff right now. So when you open that file, you're just going to get this. And it's not going to have any layouts. So what's the first thing I need to do? What was that?
Open the template.
Yeah, I need to open my template, right? I'm going to go to New. On the V40-4, 4A, MC template. Get this here. If I'm on the View tab, I can just go back to Switch Windows, go back to that practice 9, hide it, copy it, Control C, or right click, clipboard, copy. Then I can close that file and say no. Now that I'm in my template, Control V, or right click, clipboard, paste, and drop it in. Now I wanted to go my A, 1:1, lock it, right? Now I want to start adding some of this stuff in. So if I go to diameter dimension, there. I'm not going to do all of these. because we've already seen some, but kind of most of them are kind of just there. So this one, I need to say that though. So I want it to be diameter 3x, diameter 0.250, plus or minus 0.003. So gonna click on it, properties, and that's down at the bottom under tolerances. This tolerance section here, that's where we're going to add this plus or minus 0.003. It's also where we're going to add this tolerance here. Don't just go in there and type those numbers. Use the tolerance to do it.
Wait, what's that?
Right here where it's 2.005 to 2, that's a tolerance. And then the same thing over here where it's plus or minus, because you could just type that in, right? You just put it in plus or minus, but don't. Change the properties, make it a tolerance. That's the correct way to do it. It's the way that I'm going to check it on your lab. So remember, I'm checking your labs on your computer, so you can't fake it.
Where do you go for it?
In properties. So right click on it. Properties.
Yeah.
And when you click on that dimension, go all the way to the bottom. All the way to the bottom. Tolerances. So right now, under tolerance display, it says none. So there's no tolerance. If I pick on that, I get some options. I get symmetrical, which is what this is. It's plus or minus the same amount up and down. If I pick symmetrical, you can see it's still only 2 decimal places. So I probably need to go up here to primary units. Change that to 3 decimal places. Now it's 0.250 before the tolerance. And now I go to the tolerances, to the precision, change it to 3 places. See now it's 3 places there. And then for the limit right here, right now since it's the symmetrical, I only get the upper limit, I don't have a lower. I tell it 0.003. And it puts it in. So there's that one. Okay. For this other side, let me just do this one last. Got 2 more. For this one over here, I'm going to go from the top to here and over. This one is going to be a limits tolerance. Change it to 3 decimal places. So that right now the upper limit, whatever value I put in the upper limit, it's going to add to the top number. Anything I put in the lower limit, it'll subtract from the bottom number. So let's say I wanted these both to be lower than 2. I can say the upper limit is minus 0.001, and that the lower limit is 0.005. You can see that because I put a negative here, it subtracted it from the top number. If I put it as a positive number, though, it would have added it to the top number. So in our example today, we want our lower to be 0 and our upper to be 0.005. Right? And then for this angle here, we're just going to dimension, angular, pick this line, pick that line, bring it up, grab our text, and pull it inside. Okay? So angular, you pick the 2 lines themselves. Don't try and grab the corner. the next one is this jogged. So I'm going to go dimension jogged. And this is where the center point would be way down here. And so I just want to show it up here somewhere. So I'm going to pick the arc. Read the command line, what to tell me.
Specify center location.
Yeah, specify, that's where do I want this point right here to be. So I'll say right there. Now where do I want my text to be? So text there. Now where do I want this thingy to be? There. Okay. Then I can go back to that. Properties. Change the angle of that line there. Okay. Any questions on anything else on this? On this practice 9? So we've done the tolerances, we did the jog, we did that. We turn this. How do you turn this one off?
Might want to run the text off.
So in dimension, go to dimension line, either 1 or 2, and turn it off in the properties. And so do this one. And then practice 10 is to go back through practices 1 through 8 and add dimensions to them. Once, what?
What is it?
Practice 10, go back to practices 1 through 8 and see everything you've done so far and add dimensions to it.
We didn't say what we're practicing.
Oh, then
Were we supposed
practice
to,
them out.
Were we supposed to save the practices?
I've told you save everything, right?
Well, I didn't know we were supposed to save practices. I've saved everything else, but I haven't
Yep.
saved none of my
I have
practices.
almost every drawing I've ever done. Save everything. If you didn't save them, you're gonna have extra practice redoing them. Once you feel comfortable, you can go into the labs. Lab 4 is adding dimensions to labs 1 and 3. So you're gonna go to lab 1, add dimensions to it. Go to lab 3, add dimensions to it. Okay? And you'll call me over when you're finished with both of them. Any questions? Yep. Yep. I'll come around and grade after this. Eugen, or